Hey everyone, it's Mike with It's Pittsfield Tonight. It is Monday, June 30th, and I'm going to jump right into it. So I'm going to keep this video on topic with the Pittsfield Mayor, Peter Marchetti's camping ban ordinance proposal. And I did an interview with Mayor Marchetti from City Hall. I put that up last week. I know many of you saw that. I put it up in two parts. And we discussed in depth his camping ban ordinance proposal, which will be going in front of Ordinance and Rules, the Ordinance and Rules subcommittee tonight at 6 p.m. In the City Council chambers. And those are open to the public. So if you support the mayor, or if you don't support the mayor, but if you do support the mayor also, show up and speak. Because I know there are a lot of people very passionate about this. Some of the attacks or things being said about the mayor or even to the mayor, I don't understand with this, okay? Mayor Marchetti did not cause homelessness. I mean, that right there, he's been the mayor for a year and a half. I believe he's talked and discussed this topic quite a bit and is trying to find some kind of solution here. I think if we keep this topic at the forefront, it's going to finally come to a head where there will be some kind of solution. Now, like I said, he's catching a lot of heat. He's been called everything recently, from racist to Nazi to he hates poor people. He's been called an extreme MAGA right-winger. And then at the same time, he was called a lunatic leftist something. I'm like, what is happening here? You know, we got to ease back on some of the attacks on politicians like that. I don't see where that's doing any good, and that's just not true. Okay, I've disagreed with Peter Marchetti on, oh my God, probably 90% of all the things, all the topics that we were discussing over the years, over the past decade, doing interviews with him from when he was the council president up until, you know, when he's been mayor. But I can tell you right now, Peter Marchetti, as far as a politician, he's very accessible. He will talk to people. He will listen to people. And I think he's, like other issues he's worked on with this one, he's trying to find common ground. And I applaud him for that, because we could just not be talking about this, right? I mean, but the reality is, at the end of Mayor Tyer's administration, she used a considerable chunk of the ARPA funds, the American Rescue Plan money, and made some serious investments into housing projects that were long overdue. Some of them transitional housing, some of them permanent supportive housing, some of them emergency shelter housing. There's all sorts of different programs and more in the works. So I don't think we're not addressing it. Some communities just don't address it because they don't have the means to. But when you have people showing up at these meetings and screaming and yelling some kind of, most of it to me sounds ridiculous, some of the accusations. Because, look, the reality is the world is controlled by money, right? Big banks control everything. And in this country, you know, the big banks control everything. It used to be at one time we had the 10 big banks, then the 8 big banks, then the 6, then the 4, then the 3. I mean, everything started emerging. And you had big money controls the country. That should be no surprise to anybody. And when you look at what has happened with home ownership, the cost of trying to get a home and the credit requirements, the money down requirements, is unbelievable. And you're looking at houses, a cheap house nowadays is $350,000. That's caused some serious problems. Then look at rentals, the rental market. And if you talk to landlords, they'll say, well, look at the cost of everything else. Look at my taxes, look at water, look at this, look at that. But rentals now, I mean, I have friends that are paying 3 times more to rent an apartment than I paid for a mortgage. So It's confusing what has happened, and it happened quickly. It happened in a 10 to 15 year window. Things just went whew. And the pandemic really pushed that. And then, of course, once you add the opioid crisis, which is still a crisis in this country, opioids and fentanyl and those type of drugs on the street are doing a number on people still. And what's the next drug to hit? There's always something new that pops up out of nowhere. Every few decades that happens. And usually when it does, and it's something highly affordable, it's usually something seriously destructive and rips through communities quickly, like when I was a kid in the 80s when crack hit the scene. But the opioid crisis has done a number. So there's so many different pieces to that puzzle. And for people to point the finger at a mayor and think any mayor is going to solve homelessness, or accusing the mayor of hating poor people or being all these horrible things he's been accused of, because he has business owners coming to him saying, I can't take it anymore. The shoplifting, the people defecating and urinating and sleeping in my doorway. I mean, how do you run a business that way? And it's a shame when someone says something, because the people that are very passionate about helping the unsheltered in this community, that's an honorable, incredible thing to do. Look, I had a tough time in my younger years. So I get it. I totally get it. And people like that are saviors to many. But you can't take every person in that situation and put them in this basket of victimhood, that they're just a victim of everybody else and they have no accountability or no role, no part in the whole place of them being where they are. And that is not reality. Okay? That's not reality. Like, you have to be accountable for things. Granted, addiction, all these things are horrible things, and they're public health issues. And then there's human decency, to treat people with kindness and respect. I get that. But the reality of it is completely different than the way some people try to make it sound. There's many people who, due to the addiction or mental health issues or for whatever the reason, that won't go to shelters, that won't go around to other people. They won't go seek help and treatment in these places. In fact, they'll deny it and tell you, leave me alone. It's a very complicated issue, and there has to be some kind of boundaries for society with that. You can't just say, well, how would you like to be homeless, and just let people just throw up a tent and camp out anywhere they want. Or say, well, I had no place to go to the bathroom. What was I supposed to do? So they just go in somebody else's property. You can't do that. So, yes, it's a complicated issue. Yes, there's many pieces to the puzzle to try to solve this or contain it. Homelessness in the United States, and maybe many countries, but definitely in this country, has become big business, okay? Big business. You have all these organizations that they operate with tens and tens and hundreds of millions of dollars, okay? We talk about ServiceNet. I believe they're over $100 million for operating budget. They employ almost 2,000 people. There's pensions, retirement benefits, all sorts of things, insurance. There's so much that goes into this now. It's a business. It's a big thing, okay? So I just, when I hear people just getting up there and screaming and yelling, and I understand the frustration that people can have. I understand it's horrible. Nobody should have to live out on the street. And it can be very emotional for people because it can hurt you to see someone like that. And maybe you've been through it, or maybe a loved one you knew, or, it's a crazy world we're living in. But to accuse the mayor over this camping ordinance of all these horrible things is ridiculous. Ridiculous. So anybody who has anything to say on that, and that's just my view on that, I think the fact that Mayor Marchetti is open to meet and discuss and find common ground and how do we get a solution to this and how do we finally take charge and start heading towards a solution and figuring out how to fix this. That's where he's at. You can't ask for more than that from any politician. And that's just that. Whack. So, yeah. So anyways, there's a couple other things I need to mention. But tonight, 6 p.m., City Hall, Council Chambers, the Ordinance and Rules meeting. Go. If you can take the time to go and you really feel like you need to say something, go, because I'm sure it will be packed. I can already list some of the names of the people I know that will be there, and I know what they're going to say. And look, anybody who speaks up, stands up, whether I agree with them or not, I applaud that. You need more people like that in the community. I just don't see where it's beneficial saying accusations towards a politician if they're just broad accusations. Everyone knows, whether you agree or you voted for Mayor Marchetti or whatever, if you like him or don't like him, come on. We all know he didn't cause homelessness. We all know he's not out there trying to hurt people. Who would do that? Come on. So anyway, pay attention. The meeting will be streamed on PCTV. They're pretty good usually putting those on their Facebook page also. And but if you can go, do so. If you can't, 6 p.m. tonight, and you can catch it. And PCTV has a variety of different outlets they stream on. So I do, before I wrap it up, I want to touch real quick. So last week's meetings, you had school committee and city council. And the city council meeting, I got to talk about, because the opening of it, there was one thing that really bothered me. And the opening of that meeting, they had a really nice, like a celebration, a certificate awarded. And I believe it was for the baseball teams, our baseball team at PHS, something like that. I should have paid more attention, I'm sorry. But it was a sports team, I believe our baseball team from PHS, and the coaches and some people there, and they were given a certificate. And it was really nice to acknowledge them for their achievements and congratulate them and all that. So the mayor presented them with the certificate. Now, the mics on the dais where the counselors are live. And one of our at-large counselors, Alyssa Costa, as the members of the team, the coaches and the people were leaving, because the mayor jokingly said, you can leave now so you don't have to sit through the whole meeting. And that's usually what happens at the beginning of those when you have a presentation like that. So they all started to leave the council chambers. And our at-large counselor, Alyssa Costa, said, oh yeah, don't forget to vote, and laughed. And almost like in a whisper, but she said it right into the microphone. I think she was saying it to Kathy Amuso, one of the other counselors. That bothered me. I felt like that's pandering, and why would you say something like that? I mean, that bothered me. That should never be done from the dais, for one. I think probably the only people who heard it were at home. You can go back and watch it. It's right there on the meeting. I watched it a few times to make sure it was her, and she laughed, and I just thought that was so unprofessional. So unprofessional. That bothered me, because it comes across as pandering, almost like, hey, don't forget, we gave you a little certificate, so vote for us. That's how I felt like that was, especially with the laugh attached to it. So I had to mention that. And then, of course, the school committee meetings, everyone needs to pay attention to those. So there's so much going on. We're as far as restructuring, a new interim superintendent coming in, which is a good thing. New staff, we're seeing new names that will be coming into PHS. A lot of changes, and I think they need to happen. As far as, we'll call it the whole scandal that took place at PHS, and no one really getting any answer with that. I don't understand that, because when that came out, the local paper, everybody pushed it. And then we saw throughout social media, residents posting things. And we saw all sorts of things where, oh no, teachers were put on administrative leave, or paras were put on administrative leave at Stearns, more at PHS. And then something happened where a post I remember seeing, and I shared it to the group page, where a parent was saying their little boy had been smacked in the back, something like that. I mean, it was just like every few days we were seeing something about the public schools, and it was getting everyone completely worked up and riled up, which is understandable. You put anything out there that involves kids being hurt, and watch out. You know, don't tell everyone to calm down when you stir the nest like that. And then all of a sudden, nothing to see here, folks. That's it. Show's over. No report, no nothing. You're done. It was all unsubstantiated. Well, doesn't the public deserve to know what happened? If it was unsubstantiated, then for the sake of the people that were accused, what happened? How did we get in such a firestorm mess that it made national news? I remember, I think it was Seth Meyers, the Late Late Show, making a joke about one of the arrests, or the arrest at PHS. It made national news and was not a good look for the city. So you can't, and when you start saying, okay, drug dealing, inappropriate conduct, anything like that, you don't think parents are going to lose their minds over that? Come on. And then to tell them, don't be so worked up. You're being ridiculous. You're just looking for blood. There's nothing to see here, and it wouldn't be smart to release the report. Really? So I think that's the biggest failure with all of that, is that it stirred the pot, it stuck the stick in the hornet's nest, and then just everyone just walked away. Like, don't worry about it. That, I think, the public deserves an explanation of what happened. How did we get to that point? Because the media and everyone took it serious enough to put it out there, right? It was everywhere. That's why I was talking about it. I mean, there were arrests. There were people being put on administrative leave. There was all sorts of things going on. A law firm hired for over $150,000 to do an investigation, and nothing, all that, and there's nothing to see. I disagree with that. I think that needs to be addressed completely somehow. Somehow that has to be talked about to defuse the situation. We'll see what enrollment looks like going into next year. We'll see what choice out and what our enrollment is looking like. We were projected to go down every year anyway, going way back under the former superintendent, Jake McCandless. So that was something he discussed quite a bit, is our enrollment going down. And now we're talking about restructuring and all that. They just approved a $2 million feasibility study. So there's a lot going on with that. So pay attention, folks. Pay attention to all that. It's an election year. You're going to have a lot of people running for city council. I think we're going to see challengers in Ward 5, Ward 6, Ward 2. I don't know about Ward 1 or 3, but who knows? It could end up being all of them, but we are going to see some challengers. A lot of people have pulled papers. This year, I think it's August 1st to submit them. So get your signatures and submit them. They have till August 1st, so we'll find out then officially who's submitted and who's going to be on the ballot. But I think it's going to be a pretty active year, and this is a chance for the voters to speak up and to have change. And then when it comes time to vote to move the city councilors from 2 years to 4 years, I hope all of you vote against that. That is completely unnecessary. And I think it will screw up the whole check and balance system. A mayor, 4 years, I totally get that. City councilor, no, 2 years is good. City clerk, 2 years is good. School committee, 2 years is good. But to have everyone working in 4-year blocks, that's a long time. That's somebody's whole tenure in high school. Right? So if you have things that are concerns and you would rather vote to somebody else to have change, maybe a different approach if something wasn't working, it would just be, I think it'd be a big mistake, and it's just an expansion of government more. Not necessary. So, all right. I guess that's it for now. So tonight, Ordinance and Rules, 6 p.m. Go to the City Hall. If you can, if you're interested in at least speaking, sign up for the public speaking in the beginning. Speak. There'll be a lot of people there. And whether you're for or against, I think you should voice your opinion. If you can't make it, 6 p.m. PCTV. You can catch it right on Facebook. So that's it for now. The studio's coming along. We're getting there. To the organizations, there was a lot of things I missed this year because of this project. And a lot of people were messaging me. And some people sent me messages that weren't exactly friendly. I'll put it that way. Kind of demanding some help. And that upset me. That upset me. I won't get in too much depth with that, but everyone knows I've been working on the new studio, and I'm still on schedule to have this finished on time for all the election stuff, and that's super important. And as far as all the other things I missed, I'll be back on that next year. So, yeah. So those that did send me messages, again, I'm sorry I could not cover everything this year. I just couldn't. I didn't have the time, but next year we'll be back to normal. So that is it for now, again, and take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and I'll catch you all in the next day or two.